I'll tell you what, I'm getting so fed up with Chelsea. The football is diabolical. One word, it's pedestrian-like at times. I'm so frustrated at seeing my Chelsea side, my Chelsea team, our Chelsea team, set up like this in big games. We haven't won bar Spurs away from home since we beat Arsenal with Lukaku in the side. Lukaku, it feels like an age ago. Well, it was an age ago. Absolutely crazy to say this, but Chelsea's season now is at serious risk of falling apart and not getting European football, especially Champions League football. Yes, there's still a massive chance we get European football with the Conference League and everything, but I'm starting to have my interest in that competition wane as well, because part of me thinks, is it even worth it? Look, as much as I think going to win that Conference League is important to this Chelsea side, I'd much rather be playing Champions League football than winning that competition, I think. So we're going to get into it. Let me know your thoughts, because I know that's going to split people's interest, to be honest with you. It's going to cause a little bit of disruption, I think, that statement. But we're going to discuss that Arsenal game first, because for me, that might be the nail in the coffin, man. I don't know how much more I can take. This Chelsea team have to do something drastic, and something has to change. I feel like we've become stale, we've become predictable, we're absolutely riddled with fear going into these bigger games. That Arsenal team wasn't even that good. Wasn't that good at all. Last year, I'll be real, they took us apart. 5-0, it was embarrassing. This result, losing 1-0 to that Arsenal team, for me, almost feels equally as embarrassing, because I feel like we didn't even try. I think Arsenal were potentially there for the taking yesterday, and I just didn't see enough. The fact that we conceded from a set piece, I mean, that is a joke in itself. We recruited a set piece coach. I've noticed no improvement. I actually joked about it on Chelsea Fan TV on a couple of lives I did last week, and just said, enter Chelsea against Arsenal, where they haven't scored from a set piece in ages. I mean, the writing is on the wall that potentially that's how they score against us, and it was exactly what happened. No one on the back post with a set piece coach. Absolutely ridiculous. Chelsea losing 1-0 to Arsenal off the back of that set piece is so frustrating. But actually, when you look at the game as a whole, there's so many more issues as to why Chelsea could have never even dreamed about winning that game. People were asking me what I wanted before that game. I said, look, with the way things have gone, I'll walk out of there happy with a 0-0 draw. And the fact of the matter is, had we not conceded that goal from the corner, maybe we could have got it. But I knew where my expectations were at. I've learnt nothing off the back of Maresca against Copenhagen. For both of those legs, I feel like we were potentially the worst of the two teams. I actually think Copenhagen took the game to Chelsea and at times dominated the ball. And when they didn't, Chelsea were just very slow, pedestrian-like with it, and probably got fortunate at times that Copenhagen didn't have enough quality to find the back of the net, or didn't end up benefiting off the back of that tie. And we found ourselves in the next round of that, as we should do in the Conference League, all the way to the final, to be honest with you. But Leicester, Southampton, I learnt nothing. People were saying, oh, it's great, we've got clean sheets. We got clean sheets against the worst two teams the Premier League has seen potentially, or they're getting up there in the last decade, 20 years. I mean, the relegation battle this year in the Premier League has been absolutely dire. So, what are we doing here? We're trying to build confidence. And yes, we've had a result against West Ham, we've had a result against Brentford, but that's our wins at home and a Copenhagen result. Away from home, we've not won in ages. We've really struggled. Our away form's been diabolical. Ezno Maresca, I feel like him and his side are intimidated every away game we go to. I'm really, really, really struggling to find any positives. And people are saying, look, after the international break, we're going to get Jackson back. We're going to have Palmer hopefully fit, even though he's now injured, which is, I mean, look, I don't think he needed to come on against Copenhagen. The fact that we were in a position where the manager felt like it might be worth it is another huge question mark for me around whether or not he's the right man for the job. Because navigating a tie like that without your superstar player, I think is easy enough to do, to be honest with you, with the squad that we've got. look, that's the reason Cole Palmer wasn't in the Conference League tie. Cole Palmer is one of the only players at Chelsea, bar a couple of real injury-prone ones, that hasn't been playing 2 games a week. Hasn't done it in his career, really. Even at City, the rotation just wasn't there. His sort of first spell of rotation, injured. You can write it, to be honest with you, but I feel like it's extremely predictable, actually, with the way things have been going for Chelsea. But I don't feel like the return of Madueke, Jackson, Palmer is really going to do much. Maresca said how important Jackson's goals were to the side. Yes, at the beginning of the season, but once your tactics got found out and his form dropped off the face of a cliff, he hadn't scored in like 10 games. Cole Palmer's without a goal or assist in the last 10 games. Madueke's 2 goals in his last 12. You're hyping up players that ultimately haven't been good enough this season as well. They've had moments and they've had spells. And when your tactics were getting the better of sides earlier on in the season, Maresca, these players did look very, very good. At times they looked incredible. But right now, and for the last, 3 months, your tactics haven't been getting the better of opposition sides. You haven't, as a manager, in your press conferences, as your persona and building up the team's confidence. And the players ultimately have underperformed. And I think you can sort of throw the kitchen sink at these Chelsea performances right now. They've been that bad, to be honest with you. I feel like Chelsea are worse from when we played Arsenal earlier on in the season. Yes, there's been injuries. Yes, we're playing a system that ultimately is not our preferred system. Obviously, having Neto operating as the number 9 and a couple of players playing out of position. Although Maresca says that's exactly what he wants. And that's another thing that I'm struggling to get my head around is, it's almost balmy, isn't it? But Lavia, probably one of Chelsea's better midfielders this season when available, was on the bench looking at Reece James playing in his position. Reece James, one of the best right wing-backs / right full-backs in the world on his day. Obviously, post-injury, we're not quite sure, but even towards the end of last season, we saw it in glimpses how capable he is in that position of being a game changer. Is looking at Wesley Fofana playing in his position. Wesley Fofana, a great centre-back who has obviously helped Chelsea win games this season, has phenomenal recovery pace. Yes, there are liabilities in his game, but I feel like his pace bails him out. Is looking at Badiashile playing in centre-back, and people are on the bench looking at Badiashile getting a start. How can you misprofile 4 or 5 players into different positions to fit your system before you've even kicked a ball? And this is where I'm finding issues with the system and the tactical setup is there's so much shoehorning and square pegs in round holes that ultimately maybe you have to go, hang on, my system isn't working for the current selection of players I've got. Let me adapt it and change up my system so that I can get the players I've got, the right profiles in the right positions to carry out their job best. Let's not squeeze Reece James into a midfield role. Let's not make Wesley Fofana a fullback / centre-back in and out of possession. This is the sort of stuff that I feel like a top manager is able to do. And I'm not sitting here saying Maresca's got to go. What I am saying is I probably, if I was in the role of sporting director, I wouldn't have ever hired him. And this was my worry, is that we would see something like this because he's out of his depth. And ultimately, that's where we are. And he is in a position right now, Maresca, where he's got to learn quick. But I honestly, if we're going to continue with him into next season, I don't see the point in having any hopes for Champions League football, because I don't think we'll navigate it well. I don't think we'll get it, personally. I don't think we're going to qualify for the best, Europe's most elite competition. And if we do, by the skin of our teeth, how can we have any confidence with him in charge? But I also don't back this team of sporting directors and the hierarchy and the board to go and replace him with something better. I'm well aware Enzo Maresca is not getting the best out of this current Chelsea team, but I'm well aware that I don't think they'll be able to hire a manager capable, because the top managers, I don't think they want to work for the team currently, for the board, for Chelsea as a club. I don't think it's viewed as attractive. I think it's way too chaotic. The plan is so out there compared to anything else. The manager that you'd have to go for is someone who's a rogue, who believes that this actually is on an upwards trajectory, or someone that's a mercenary that believes they'll get themselves sacked and come away with a real good financial package. So what do we do? I'm at an absolute loss as to the future of Chelsea Football Club. I could sit here right now and say, sack Maresca, get John Terry till the end of the season, bring back the good old days, make sure we get Champions League football and win the Conference League. I just don't think that's happening. One, I don't think the squad and the players will react in a way that's good enough for that to happen under a manager relatively inexperienced as John Terry or something like that. And that's what I've seen some Chelsea fans crying out for. But also, I just don't see the direction of this club going in the right direction. I think what it needs from above is a complete and utter drastic U-turn. And just sort of sit here and say, this hasn't worked. The briefings are outrageous. We've spent 100 million pretty much this week on 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds who could have very bright futures. But then we're being told we need to sell 8 players to fund a striker. I mean, come on. You can't think we're all not understanding what's going on here. There are quite simply messages being passed out for pure PR to just try and sweeten the blows when we fail to sign something that we're all expecting to happen as fans. Winning is just secondary at Chelsea. I feel like it's been made excusable for Maresca to lose games in the manner that he has, to say things in the manner that he has, for this team to lose games against sides that are considered better than us. It's okay. It's not an issue anymore. What is that about? That's not Chelsea. That's not an elite club, but I don't think it is anymore. And it's painful and it's a shame and it's sad, but I don't see it changing. And I'm properly downbeat because I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel for all this rubbish. You sack Maresca, they'll bring in someone else that's just like him. You get rid of some of these players, they're going to go and buy more 17-year-olds. They failed with recruitment. Well, guess what? They're going to, the same guys that have failed to build a team 3 times, go again, spend another stupid amount of money. You give them $1 billion, $1.5 billion, they don't get it right. The board saw the protests, doubled down on signing young players. Maresca, so naive, so stuck to a system that isn't getting him results. You know, if your system's not working, you go, hang on a minute, that isn't working, I might change it up. No, he's saying it will work. If not, I don't know what else to do. He's just proceeding with the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result. That's the definition of madness. Chelsea Football Club are a club that are in disarray, out of control, and moving in a direction that is alien to 90% of its fan base. But right now, what I will say, with all that going on, I don't believe the manager is getting the best out of his players. And I think this is what we all thought might happen when he was hired during the summer last year, when the name came out from nowhere that no one knew. This is the worry that we all had. This is what Leicester fans told us did happen. The football's stale and the results can drop off the face of the earth rapidly. And that's exactly what we've seen happen with Chelsea this season. And the brilliance, I don't see it returning that was there at the end of the season. So maybe he was riding on the high that Pochettino left us in, and potentially the new manager bounced at the same time, and his tactics new and strange to the Premier League, but now been found out and he's without reply. But if you sack him now, I don't see what it does. I think the players win for bad performances. These players aren't good enough to have the power over a manager's career like previous generations at Chelsea have had. Because if the manager is removed, I genuinely don't believe this playing squad is good enough to go and win in the manner that previous teams have done before, where they've carried us over the line because winning was absolutely must. And I genuinely feel that there's so many issues with the squad that has to be sorted, as well as a manager, recruitment, everything. There's so many issues at Chelsea. We could sit here forever. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll just pump out a load of videos this week, chatting about so many different things, get you guys interacting. I'm sorry I'm down B, and Chelsea are sat here in 4th, but I think this just shows how false that position potentially might be, or how lucky Chelsea are getting with the fact that we are benefiting from the Premier League being incredibly inconsistent this season for the majority of teams, and a real lack of quality in the Prem. I think we're getting away with it, the fact that we're sat here in 4th. But with the run-in, I really don't expect to be there come the end of the season. Champions League football is going to be incredibly tough for us to obtain. I'll see you all in a bit. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm intrigued to know where people are at with Chelsea because I'm at a loss.